we will move on with our agenda, and we have the pleasure and the honor to have our former president, always member of our family, yes, Apostolos Tzitzikostas with us, who is the first president to become commissioner in the European Commission. We are super proud that you are there, and still we are one family. You're here today with us on tourism, but as we exchanged a little bit, you are always welcome here, and you are very welcome also on transport. And you have many other things too, because most of us are interested in tourism, but transport, every one of us is interested. So we will have you back, hopefully, as many times as possible. So I will not take the time, not of yours and not of the members, so please, I'll give you the floor. Thank you very much for coming, and then we will start the debates. Apostolos, please.
Thank you very much, President Tuto, my dear friend Kata. I have to admit that I'm very moved today to be here. After all, not more than 6 months ago, I was sitting on this very chair, and I feel a part of this great family, the family of regions and cities of the European Union. I've been part of this family for 10 years, so as you understand, it is a place that I call home. And if I may, I will keep calling it home. And I want you to know, President and dear members of the European Committee of Regions, that whenever you want me to be here to discuss issues that are concerning my portfolio, whether it is infrastructure projects or transport or maritime or tourism or the automotive sector, feel free to let me know, and I will be always here to discuss with you. After all, for me, cities and regions are at the very heart both of transport and tourism, the main two policies of my portfolio. So thank you for inviting me and for giving me the pleasure and the honor to see many of my friends in this room, and for the opportunity to exchange on a very important topic today, tourism. But you know, over the years, I have greatly valued the insights and the knowledge shared in this committee. So today, I'm here not just to inform, but to listen. And when I say today, I mean at the very first steps towards our first ever European strategy for sustainable tourism. So I come here to begin writing the pages of this new strategy with you, because I know that you have a very valuable input, knowledge, experience from the ground. And I want to stress this out, that I believe that always the power of cities, regions, regional governors, mayors and councillors, and the power of this committee, the European Committee of Regions, lies to the ground, to the roots, to the villages, the cities and the regions of Europe, where everything starts and everything ends, and where the real issues and problems of the citizens are. So I need your experience, and that's why I'm here today, because this is, after all, the true added value of the European Committee of the Regions, and I tend to make full use of it in the coming years. So, dear colleagues, as you know very well, tourism is a bridge between people, places, businesses, visitors and communities. It is the catalyst for the positive change that Europe needs right now. Tourism drives economic growth and development. It generates revenue, which must remain as close as possible to the local communities. But it also empowers local businesses. It creates jobs. Let me give you some key figures. We count around 20 million workers today in Europe, in over 3 million small tourism businesses. Tourism contributes 10% to the European GDP, with some countries reaching up to 25% of their GDP, and some regions and some cities and some destinations depend entirely on it. In 2024, tourism in Europe broke new records, surpassing both pre-pandemic and 2023 heights. More than 3 billion nights were spent in tourist accommodation, out of which 18% were spent by non-EU travellers. In the first quarter of this year alone, we already reached 452 million nights. But of course, the situation is not the same across Europe. Some regions are struggling, either because of the proximity to war zones, such as Ukraine, or because they have yet to be discovered by travellers. And we need to shine the light on these destinations to help them gain the visibility that they deserve. But we must also be and remain realistic. Tourism is a fragile sector by nature. It is exposed to volatility, from pandemic to geopolitical tensions. That's why we want the ongoing revision of the Travel Package Directive to provide more legal certainty for both consumers and businesses in the sector. Yet, despite the challenges, I remain optimistic, because the value of tourism goes beyond its economic impact, especially for local communities, because it brings people together. It creates opportunities for regions and cities to share their traditions, their culture, their heritage, and ultimately their values. So this is why it is so important to preserve tourism's unique local character and ensure it benefits the local communities while protecting their cultural and natural heritage. We must promote a positive narrative for tourism, one that highlights its benefits. Paris successfully did it during the Olympic Games. Barcelona is doing it through dedicated campaigns. Other regions and cities must follow too. But above all, we must strike a balance between economic growth and the well-being of the citizens at every destination, between visitor quality experience and sustainability. And when I use the word sustainable, I mean in its broader sense. Of course, tourism must not harm the environment or the natural landscape, but it must also respect people, communities, local identities, and cultural heritage. We are talking here about sustainability also as receiving capacity. We need to measure the carrying capacity of a given destination, and I mean it mostly in terms of number of tourists that can be received without causing disruption to physical, economic, or socio-cultural environment. Dear colleagues, no one knows better than you how closely tourism is linked to local and regional governance. You are the ones managing the flows. You are the ones building the infrastructures. You are the ones who are feeling the pressure or the lack of demand. At the Commission, we respect the principle of subsidiarity, and our role is to complement yours. We do it through legislation, through coordination, through funding, peer learning, exchange of good practices, and financial support. Now let me highlight a few key figures. Cohesion policy remains a strong ally for tourism. 4.2 billion euro from the ERDF has been allocated to support sustainable and smart tourism businesses and destinations in the current programming period, and the recent mid-term review refers also to tourism in rural areas. The Recovery and Resilience Facility has earmarked and will receive up to €13 billion for tourism. Unfortunately, not all member states have chosen to do it. In total, this brings us around €17 billion. But let me be clear, it is not enough. And this is what I said to the ministers last week in Warsaw at the Ministerial Council. The RRF will end soon, and I believe that tourism should have a dedicated budget line in the future. We need to secure that the objective of sustainable tourism is enshrined in the main funds, starting from the Competitiveness Fund and the ERDF. Today, financial support is scattered across several funds, which are sometimes difficult to access by SMEs that are the backbone of the sector. We need to simplify the programs and the way that you, regions, cities, and your businesses manage to reach funding for tourism. We are also looking at new synergies between the future tourism strategy and the updated EU Rural Action Plan, in order to explore how rural tourism can boost local economies, address demographic challenges, and rebalance tourism flows. And in urban areas, we support smart, green, digital, innovative tourism solutions. And I want to congratulate Torino, that was awarded the 2025 European Capital of Smart Tourism, and Benidorm, the Green Pioneer of Smart Tourism 2025. And let me also commend Mayor Roberto Gualtieri of Rome for launching the Giulia initiative, an application funded by the RRF. This collaborative effort between the municipality of Rome, ChatGPT and Microsoft gathers vital visitor data upon arrival and provides them with practical information. I used it last week during my visit in Rome. And this collected data helps manage crowd flow and enhances the experience for both tourists and the local community by offering real-time service information. It is an amazing project that should be copied by other cities as well and destinations. Dear colleagues, the Commission also supports sustainable tourism partnerships under the European Urban Agenda and our transition pathway for tourism, which was developed just right after the COVID pandemic, helped to boost the sector's resilience and accelerated the green and digital transitions. Member States supported the pathway, adopting the Agenda for Tourism 2030, and these are the building blocks for the first ever European strategy for sustainable tourism that we are preparing, and we will present it early 2026 next year. Last week in Warsaw, in the ministerial meeting for tourism, we discussed some key priorities of this new strategy: boosting global competitiveness of our tourism sector, increased resilience to shocks, ensuring a safe and secure environment for businesses and tourists, advancing sustainability with support for destinations already on this path, collecting comparable data in a common space, something which is fundamental, the need for clearer rules and a reduced administrative burden for SMEs, stronger promotion of lesser-known destinations, especially in rural areas, sustainable connectivity, digital tools, including AI, to support destination management organizations that need to be run by cities and regions who have the knowledge to do that in order to address unbalanced tourism in several hotspots. Let me stress a point here. I speak of unbalanced tourism, but I don't speak on over-tourism, because I don't believe that such a thing exists, like over-tourism. Because let's be honest, currently there are more regions which suffer of under-tourism. So the real challenge is to find the right balance and promote the right narrative. Still, in places where tourism is unbalanced and overwhelming some period in the year, communities are rightly concerned. And we must listen and we must act. And I'm here to help find a solution to the problem of unbalanced tourism. But the issues are far much more complex than they look. And I'm talking here about housing, short-term rentals, infrastructure. Tourism, dear members, is only part of the picture, but not the whole picture. To tackle this unbalanced tourism, we need strong destination management organization with the right tools, including AI, with data, to manage flows and avoid the trap of tourism phobia. This is what we need to avoid at all costs. Because ultimately, tourism must remain a positive force, a source of pride, a source of identity and of prosperity. So, dear colleagues, the new EU tourism strategy will indeed offer guidance on each of these points that I presented to you, and many more, reflecting the needs of all the stakeholders within the tourism ecosystem. And I believe our focus and some flagship initiatives must be on: first, competitiveness by supporting SMEs and their twin transition; second, sustainability, including seamless cross-border transport like car rentals. We are giving an end to this problem where citizens and visitors could not rent a car from one country and leave it to another. We are bringing the regulation that will end this so that rentals of cars will be able to happen anytime, all across any 27 member states, for a person to be able to get a car from one country and leave it in another without extra costs. And I will propose, together with this strategy, a simplification of the cross-border car rental. Third, branding by targeting new emerging markets with strategic messaging. Fourth, skills by addressing a very big problem that tourism has, labour shortages. To this end, we will propose a flagship initiative to tackle this challenge by promoting vocational training through, for instance, the creation of a virtual academy of the European Union for tourism. And our strategy will only succeed if it is built with your input, dear colleagues. That's why we launched 2 consultations, a targeted stakeholder consultation in May and a public consultation that opened on the 20th of June. We already have 150 responses and counting. So today I look forward to your ideas, your needs, your proposals, your expectations. You are not just partners in implementation. For me, you will be the co-authors of this first ever tourism strategy. I also encourage you to transform your destination marketing organizations in your cities and regions into destination management organizations, to move from promotion only of a destination to responsibility, from volume only to value, from quality to quantity. I know that next week the NAT Commission will be discussing the draft opinion on sustainable and resilient tourism, led by the President of the Balearic Islands. I urgently await the outcome of this meeting. The strategy's success will depend on our shared commitment, and I have no doubt that we are on the same side. This is your strategy too, because I will truly support these regions and the municipalities, the cities and the villages all across Europe, whether you are trying to meet demand or to attract it or to manage it. And I know that I can count on you to mobilize Europe's regions and cities for this vital discussion on the future of tourism. Together, dear colleagues, we can make this strategy a success, and we will. Thank you.
Thank you very much, dear Commissioner Tzitzikostas, dear Apostolos, thank you very much. So please keep in mind the deadline, okay? It's 12th of September to enter this public consultation in writing too. Today is important, but that's important too. We will move out now to, I will give the floor to the members. Please keep the time. You will hear a sound after your time is off, which means that please then finish, wrap up. The floor goes now to Sarirauti.
Thank you, dear Commissioner, dear Apostolos. It's so great to have you back here, home, as you said yourself. I also want to refer to Kierkegaard. There are two ways to be fooled. One is to believe what isn't true. The other is to refuse to see and believe what is true. And what is true, that tourism is for sure strong in Europe and should be even stronger. Thank you for your great presentation. Tourism is a huge driver for employment and economic success for many cities and regions in all Europe. We are ready to make sure that it's contained, future-proof and sustainable, what you said. That is why we want close cooperation with you, Commissioner. And what do we expect? We expect the commitment to work with local and regional authorities and to support them in their efforts. We expect the commitment to convince online platforms to share reliable, timely and accurate data, enabling us to make informed decisions and to pursue rogue hosts. We expect commitment to support cities and regions also financially, facilitating their access to EU funding for smart, green and digital tourism projects. And then the last, commitment to include cities and regions in technical support investment instruments normally reserved to member states only, and providing tailored expertise and advice on designing and implementation on resilience enhancing reforms. So finally, dear Apostolos, we are hoping for a proper tourism funding line in the future MFF, as you already mentioned, that would be enabled not just to support the SMEs, but also the local and regional authorities. And I know we are having hot here. Thank God we have different parts of Europe, so we can swift to different parts and see different kinds of climates. Europe's richness, its variety. We need to work together. Thank you so much, and all the best for your work.
Thank you very much. Right on time. Mathieu Cuip.
Merci, Madame la Présidente, Monsieur le Commissaire.
Thank you, President, Commissioner, colleagues. This is a vital issue for our territories. In the Ile-de-France region, which you visited recently, we have the most visitors in the world, and we need to reconcile the attractiveness with our growth and with social sustainability, environmental considerations and tourism too. You have a strategy for sustainable tourism in Europe. I have a few thoughts I'd like to share with you. You've talked about a clear financial commitment. We're grateful for that. The MFF needs revision. And despite the arbitrage which has been going on, it is very difficult to ensure that there is a budget line dedicated to tourism post-2027. But we need something stable, clear. We need to ensure we get through the transition in the sector. You made some initial remarks about how vital tourism is to many parts of our territory. You talked about method and the collective wisdom of territories, networking, bringing together platforms for territorial cooperation, and through the ARDF too. There are networks bringing together dozens of regions. Many Committee of the Regions colleagues are in the tourism task force and particularly committed to this issue. We'd be delighted to host you and exchange views with you. We need a clearly readable, future-oriented tourism policy as part of the EU's core policies: decarbonisation, clean industrial deal, effective techniques through ETS and the Innovation Fund, 15% job creation. We're strengthening competitiveness to increasing energy independence and regeneration of territories. And it's also vital for short and long distance mobility. To strengthen this dynamic, we need to ensure that the strategy has our regions at its heart. So, dear Apostolos, thank you very much for this future strategy. We will be there for you.
Goes now to Carolina Darias San Sebastian.
Estimado comisario, queridos colegas.
Dear Commissioner, dear colleagues, thank you very much for organizing this debate because we're talking about sustainable development, sustainable tourism, and so we're talking about the futures of our cities and our regions. I am the mayor of Las Palmas in Gran Canaria. It's a place that's known for its university, its climate, and its beaches. It's an area that's working toward more sustainable and resilient tourism. Tourism is one of the major drivers of wealth on our island, but we have to do it sustainably to ensure that our city remains livable for those who live there. And we also have some shared challenges. One of them is sustainable tourism along with social cohesion, and we have to keep a balance. There are three factors that we have to keep in mind. Our cities have to be livable and attractive. They have to be attractive for the people who visit us. Tourism needs to have a positive impact on living conditions in the city. And thirdly, we need to find a way to ensure that those who visit the city also enjoy themselves while people living there also are able to live there in the best possible conditions. We should make sure that people who come to the city then also want to live in the city. Las Palmas in Gran Canaria is a historic city. It's learnt a lot from tourism. We receive more than 1.5 million tourists every year. And we also were greatly affected by the pandemic. In history, we've had a lot of success, but we have to make sure that we can build on this success. We can make sure that we can ensure good living conditions, good conditions for those who live there as well as visit the city. It's very important to ensure that people who live in the cities also are able to enjoy their rights. There's something I'd like to just share with you. There is a compromise, or rather there is a promise that has been broken, and that's where we're talking about vacation homes. And when it comes to housing itself, the large number of vacation homes has really made it difficult for people to live on Gran Canaria. Tourism is growing. There's a greater demand for vacation homes, but at the same time, we also have to find a balance, and we have to stop the skyrocketing of rents of people living in Gran Canaria. Therefore, we have made sure in Gran Canaria that we have a residential housing market that can continue to serve the people who live on the island. We've also decided to start building housing and ensure that there's a certain amount of housing kept aside for people who actually live on the island. Also, when we're talking about tourism, we have to talk about improving our services, while at the same time improving the quality of services on Las Palmas and in Gran Canaria. And of course, we have to promote sustainable housing, sustainable living conditions and tourism for those who visit us. So, Commissioner, we look forward to the Commission redoubling its efforts when it comes to sustainable tourism by setting out specific mechanisms to promote energy efficiency, circular economy, digitalization, and a sustainable tourism model. I think that the strategy will be a good way to achieve this. Thank you.
Muchas gracias. The floor goes now to Mirja Vekapera.
Thank you, President. In my own city, Oulu, we own Sustainable Tourist label. Visit Oulu have their own certificate. Many companies are engaged in sustainable tourism. The city has a sustainable tourist program, development plan, and EU projects has been done. This sounds like a familiar for all of you. Oulu has also participated in the EU Commission's Sustainable EU Tourism projects. In the future, we have to develop measurements and communication, preparing a tourist analysis and action plan in European level. Dear all, heat waves, floods, wildfires, climate change will affect tourist flow and activities. If global warming continues, tourism will be impossible in part of Europe during the summer months. Eyes are turning north to the more Arctic regions. The north has unequal nature and natural resources. We have 4 really different seasons. 5 million people live in Arctic regions, as indigenous people too. We have traditional professions, for example, reindeer herding. Decisions about the growth of tourism are topics with local residents, municipalities and companies. We need a good dialogue. Nature must not be destroyed. We must act wisely. What we don't have, we need better connections and hotel and accommodation capacity and workers in high season. Renew Europe sees sustainable tourism not just an environmental necessity, but as a tremendous opportunity to innovate, improve local communities and create green jobs. Finally, one takeaway and invitation. Many guest groups, conference delegations visit in our municipalities and cities. Instead of goods and material, why don't you plant a tree or a piece of protected forest as a gift? An invitation. In my own hometown, home city Oulu, we do culture climate change. Commissioner and all of you are warmly welcome to enjoy our European Capital of Culture Year 2026 in Oulu. We are wild city, cool contrasts and brave hinterland. Thank you.
Kiitos. Floor goes now to Marco Marsilio.
Caro Commissario,
Dear Commissioner, in order to be truly considered sustainable, tourism must not only take into account the environmental aspect, but must also be attentive to all three dimensions aimed at protecting the local economy: the environmental dimension, the economic dimension, and above all the cultural dimension, defending the millennial traditions of our villages and promoting local crafts and food and wine products. Investment in ports, railways, airports and sustainable mobility are among the priorities for my region and the whole of Europe. If some areas have too many tourists and others have too few, that is no doubt because it is a lot easier to get to some places that are very well connected, whereas others require a lot of time and money to be accessed. And some people work very hard for months on end and only have a few days free to engage in tourism, so they're unlikely to go to far-flung, difficult-to-reach places. And we have abolished the additional municipal tax on and reduced cost of access to Abruzzo's regional airport and helped achieve a 40% increase in passenger numbers year on year. We have to remember that peripheral regions bear costs. These costs very often come from their regular budget. So in order to achieve true European cohesion, we need to build infrastructure that links metropolitan areas and rural areas. A lot of major infrastructure, such as TEN-T, Trans-European networks, are often about linking big cities with tens of millions of people, completely leaving out the rural areas, mountainous areas or islands. And there's a similar picture for digital. We need to ensure that we have universal service in terms of transport and digital, and that will require funding. 100 to 200 kilometers away from Rome, one of the most accessible cities in the world, my region is nonetheless a 3-hour train journey away that renders it much less accessible and makes tourism less sustainable. So we need EU investment in order to ensure full cohesion. One final little comment. I just wanted to refer to high expectations of the CO2 emissions car and van revision. We really want to achieve progress there in terms of technological neutrality. Sorry for overshooting my time.
Nanette Maupertu.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Commissioner, first of all, I'd like to congratulate for being here. Thank you. Being here, well, in fact, returning here. It's nice to see a friend of the islands as well, and thank you for your proposal. In Corsica, as other destinations, tomorrow's tourism cannot be overpopulation during the course of just a few weeks and a few locations. Sustainable tourism has to be spread out over time and over space. Of course, I was listening attentively to the different proposals you had. Corsica, which I represent here, already has a vision of this type. We've adopted a roadmap on sustainable tourism under my authority, in fact, and we can see specific examples, specific actions which are now reaping fruit. A charter for sustainable tourism, for example, which engages everybody in social, environmental, respectful practices that don't harm the environment and also look at small-scale tourism. This approach also helps those who want to get a European eco-label. We've worked a lot in this area. We've been promoting agro-tourism, and especially in the inland and hinterland where there are smaller areas. Now, this can be a catalyst for rural areas and remote areas, but for sustainable tourism, the EU has to accompany us with a strategy that's differentiated and tailor-made, depending on where we're looking at. We need to have issues covered such as accessibility. We heard this recently. Ports and airports need to be covered as well, because sustainable tourism must mean that everybody should have access. Also, we need a cross-cutting approach. We know funding, we know the problems of the coming MFF, but with a combination of various cohesion funds, we can support those stakeholders in the tourism sector. Also, promoting culture, heritage and languages on our territories. That's very important. So, Commissioner, make sure that every territory in the EU can welcome people without damaging their heritage.
Yes, well, dear Apostolos, thank you very much for the opportunity to share our view on the future of the tourism in our cities. I will not ask you for the money this time, but I will use my time to emphasize that over-tourism is a real problem, and believe me, because Prague remains one of Europe's most visited urban destinations. Before COVID, we had similar numbers as Rome, and the numbers are getting back. But there is also a downside of this success. It's not just late-night noise, but of course it is about the housing. And I know that the over-tourism isn't the only factor, but it plays a significant role in making central neighborhoods less affordable and less livable. And I, of course, welcome the recent adoption of the EU short-term rental regulation, but for cities like Prague, the implementation will be the key, and I would like to urge the Commission to ensure a real platform transparency, access to data, and strong support for enforcement at the local level. So still, the Airbnb remains a problem. We are shifting our approach, however. Our goal is to not just attract more visitors, but to do in a way that respects the rhythm of the city, and the technology and data are central to this shift. So we've got this nice sustainable Prague digital platform. There are real-time indicators on housing, mobility and quality of life, and it helps us track whether our development is truly sustainable. But to show you more, I would like to invite you to Prague personally. I will show you all the downsides of the over-tourism in our cities, of course, including the Prague pubs, and I believe that you won't find a better guide for this. Thank you.
Thank you. And now for the 1-minute interventions. 1 minute, everyone. Francisca Ramiz Pons.
Señor Comisario,
Commissioner, on behalf of the Balearic Islands, I would like to thank you for this strategy on sustainable tourism for the European Union. Tourism represents 9.7% of GDP and provides employment for 11.1% of people. This is a strategy which requires a systemic vision, territorial dimension, strengthening balanced competitiveness, circular economy, green, digital and social transitions of our regions. This is a strategy which needs to be achieving a smart management of tourism flows, using smart systems for distributing people over time and place, encouraging innovation and entrepreneurship, encouraging sustainable mobility and balanced connectivity. In this way, we can make a contribution to the prosperity of territories, to the well-being of residents and visitors, and in that way, you can certainly count on us as an ally in the Balearics.
Gualtieri, Roma.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner, dear Apostolos, and welcome home. As you rightly said, tourism is a crucial industry which provides jobs and revenues for our cities, therefore should not be fought, but for sure it should be regulated in order to make it more sustainable and balanced. In this respect, the strategy you are working on is crucial in order to give concrete support by the European Commission to those local policies and actions aimed at making tourism more balanced and sustainable, more integrated with the life of the cities, of the territories where tourism flows arise. In this respect, and thank you for your mention to Julia, digitalization and AI can be a powerful provider to address the risk of bad tourism and provide more balance and information to all tourists. So I invite everybody to give a look to Julia. Finally, if you want to avoid a fight between residents and tourists, you must support the public policy for housing and support the programme of Mayor for Housing. Otherwise, the alternative would be considering tourists enemies of the good housing. We don't want that, so we need public policies in support of public housing. Thank you.
Grazie. Magdalena Czarzinska.
Hello, I'm the mayor of Sopot, Polish tourist city, and for me sustainable tourism means, above all, that our residents feel like true hosts, needed, respected, comfortable, not like outsiders. Of course, we have to regulate short-term rentals to supporting local business. This is obvious. But in Sopot we go further and we have to create our culture, sports, leisure offer, but also investment, even from European funds, in the way that serves not only our visitors, but first and foremost our residents. We want them to enjoy these events and spaces. I believe that it's worth promoting the idea of spending free time in your own city. We must avoid the creation of places that exist only for tourists, places that often became empty and lifeless outside the season. Instead, we want to build a strong, living communities that benefit from tourism. Thank you.
Thank you. Dimitrios Ptochos.
Thank you very much. I will take the advantage of Apostolos to speak in Greek. The
Peloponnese, where I'm the regional secretary, is not just a simple destination. It is part of the destination Europe. So we are committed to implementing tourist cooperations between the Peloponnese and the Mediterranean, as you very well described. We are investing in Peloponnese trails, in immersive experiences, and we have indicators to monitor the real footprint of tourism, ecological and cultural. We take initiatives, but we're also ready to support all policies for better synergies, such as for the environment, water management, combined transport, technology, and simplification and housing. We believe in a tourism that does not only count arrivals, but also creates value with bridges, that bridges people and brings people together in a cohesive manner. We believe that by working together more intensely, we can achieve better tourism for all. Thank you very much.
Irina Taviste.
Dear Commissioner, President, dear colleagues, I am taking this excellent opportunity to deliver my speech in Estonian. Minu kodulinn Pärnu omab pea 2 sajandi pikkust ajalugu kuurordina.
Pärnu, my hometown, is a summer town. We are very proud of our town, and we've seen how even today we continue to thrive. We think that tourism should not only be seasonal, but in fact it's something that should support people who live there as well. It should support nature and protect our identity as well. We are looking to invest more in smaller towns in order to avoid over-tourism. Smaller cities, in fact, offer more and better opportunities, and my city is looking to cooperate at European level. Thank you.
Tanya Hristova, and I will have to close the debate soon.
Dear Commissioner, thank you for the opportunity to be together. And thank you for bringing to the fore the very important topic for sustainable tourism, an area where the local and regional authorities are not just stakeholders, but they are really, and we are really change makers. The European Union strategic vision from the Green Deal to the transition pathway for tourism provides really a strong foundation, but it is our cities, regions and villages where this vision becomes tangible reality. Sustainable tourism is really very important for our economies, but it must also preserve our nature, our heritage and also our identity, which means that we need investing in models and having at our disposal tools that will protect our resources, support local producers and create, of course, jobs. The European Committee of the Regions is an area where we discuss very often and frequently how important the local and regional authorities are, and this is where, if we grant them the mission to lead, we can have greener and safer Europe. Thank you.
Fabrizio Santori.
Signor Presidente, onorevoli colleghi.
President, ladies and gentlemen, today we're talking about sustainable tourism, and that means we need to meet some of the greatest challenges in terms of identity that the European Union has. It's not just an environmental issue, good practices, it's a really fight for civilization, social justice and self-determination in economic terms for our territories. We need to have a disruption. We have to have Europe not imposing models. We need to listen to SMEs, entrepreneurs, local politicians, people who are actually working with tourism on a daily basis. We need to look at the costs of this and natural reserves and parks. We see a lot of people under pressure now. If you look at Rome, Venice, Barcelona, fantastic cities, but suffocating from unmanageable tourism. And we see that there's desertification where all the shops have to leave the city centres. And what we need to do is provide dignity to these territories, certainty for locals and prosperity for businesses. We need to have well-being at local level. We can't just have extracting prosperity and richness from that. It is a question of having the identity of Europe without undermining it.
Karine Gloanek-Moran, then one more, and then I close.
Thanks, Madam President. For us to be able to develop sustainable, we need adaptable and focused assistance, not only to develop locally based models of tourism, but also sustainable access to those tourism locations. Many areas, such as my own County Laois, has limited public transport access from the main airports, and this means that there is an over-concentration of tourists being drawn to the main cities. So I would like to see sustainable tourism not only being year-round, but also better distributed access across regions. We need to boost initiatives such as Ireland's Ancient East, where we can highlight some of our cultural heritage and folklore. Small-scale visits to these sites have a huge positive impact on communities. Our natural environment is also a resource which is beneficial to the tourist industry, but it must be protected. In my county, this would relate to the Slieve Bloom Mountains. So I would call for more investment via cohesion and other funding for sustainable transport to access some rural areas currently programmed under the Just Transition funding in Laois, and more focus on locally based sustainable tourism cooperation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. The last one, still Yanos Angeloudis from Thessaloniki.
Madam Chair, Mr. Commissioner, I would like to thank you very much. In Thessaloniki, we are every day examining the limits of today's model. We want tourism that will bring some value added to our societies, and we should move away from the thinking more is better. Tourism for us is an opportunity for social cohesion and sustainability. It should not be a threat for the inhabitants or the environment. So we are trying to serve our birthplace. So I was very happy to hear the Commissioner. And I would like to say to him that indeed we need European policies, policies on short-term rentals, European policies on housing, and also special funding instruments that will support those special forms of tourism, and will also help with the interconnection of cities, because the truth is that not all of the cities are the same when we are talking about interconnections. For all of these reasons, I would like to tell you, Mr. Commissioner, that we are really looking forward to the decisions you are going to take. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you so much. I'm closing the debate now. Dear Commissioner, dear Apostolos, thank you very much for coming. We promise you the first day that you will be part of our team cohesion, and you were asking for the number one, first president who become commissioner.
Thank you so much.
And the goalkeeper. So be our goalkeeper.
Thank you very much.
In the European Commission, please.
Thank you. Thank you. Beautiful. Really nice. Let me say goodbye. Thank you very much for this very interesting debate. I understand that you have my colleague now on agriculture for a debate, so we will not have time to exchange. But rest assured that I'm here, available to you anytime to have a debate again, either on tourism or on other issues of my portfolio. And always remember, I am part of this wonderful team in the Committee of Regions. Thank you very much.